cleaning and storing and taking care of your equipment. We've talked over and over again about what an investment it is. Your tack, your bridles, your saddles, your boots, your bandages, your pads. And if you really want to get your money's worth out of your investment, you need to know how to properly take care of the things that you buy. And oh, hi Melissa, how are you doing? Melissa's going to help me today, and she's going to help Ruth as well. We have all kinds of cleaning equipment. We're going to go over that. We have bridles, we have saddles, we have pads, we have brushes, and we're going to get started. I'm going to have Ruth come in. Come on in, Ruth. How are you doing?
Hello, good. How are you?
I'm just standing. That's very grody.
Nice place to start.
Yeah, a nice moldy surcingle. I'll get out of your way so you guys can talk about this.
All right. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is that, number one, these are very expensive pieces of equipment. All of your investments, your saddles, your bridles, your boots, everything costs money. And if we take really good care of our equipment, then it can last a lifetime. It's a really good investment. Aside from the safety factor, which is when we clean it and we keep it properly, we know that we're not going to have a billet break or a rain break, because the leather is very, very strong when it's properly taken care of. And leather is all about moisture level. The correct moisture level in your leather determines whether your tack is in good shape. Did you know, Melissa, that sometimes when you see mildewy parts of your tack, it's actually a sign of healthy leather?
No.
That's because mildew will only grow where there's a proper amount of moisture. So just because you see mildew on your tack if it's been sitting around does not mean your tack is in bad shape. It actually means that the quality of the moisture level in your tack is good, but we do want to get rid of all that stuff. The biggest enemy of your tack is salt and water, and that comes out of sweat when the horses are sweating or we're sweating. So I pulled this beautiful piece of grungy tack out of our trailer so we can have really something fun to show. There are some mildewy spots on it. You can see that there is salt built up from the horse's elbows and belly. And we really need to get this off, because the longer it sits on our tack, the more it dries the tack out. The drier the tack, the more brittle it will become. So we're going to start with a salt remover to get the mildew and the salt stains off. We have a couple different types of product. This is just a regular salt remover. You can use this on your boots, your shoes, your saddles. This is made for tack. It's a little more expensive. It's a great product called FX. And this is, again, just for salt and stain. This is not for cleaning all of your tack, and it's certainly not a conditioner. And what happens when you use this kind of product is that you have to recondition the moisture level back into your tack. So let's just use the salt remover and take one of your towels. Everybody likes to use a different kind of material. I personally like cotton that has a little bit of texture to it so that it will help pull the gunk and the grime off my tack. And I also don't want some kind of material that absorbs all of my product, because then it's not getting onto my tack. So go ahead and get some of that on there, and we're just going to show a little bit about cleaning the salt off of this tack, and then we'll go through the next couple of steps. We have it hung on a bridle rack. You can use the corner of a door or the side of your trailer door, whatever you need, but you do need to be able to get to all of your tack easily so that it's nicely hung, and you can make sure you've got all the pieces of your bridle. So she's just going to wipe down some of the salt that's come off, and maybe we'll just do part of this section while I'm talking so we don't do the whole thing. While you're cleaning your tack, you should also be looking at stitching, you should be looking at elastic, you should be looking at reins and buckles for all of your safety factors. You would really not want to be lunging your horse with this surcingle and have your side rein attached and either have this piece crack and break, or your side rein crack and break and your horse is running around uncontrolled. So always looking at your stitching is really, really important. So when you get a little section of that salt removed, that's pretty good. Let's show the front of that and see the difference now. You know, you can see that this looks a bit gray and this starts to look a little darker. So where the darkness is, and we're going to flip it over so maybe you could scrub off maybe this big section of salt here, so that you know for sure you're not missing anything. And if it's gray looking, then it's salty or sweaty or dirty and you need to get those off. So just a little bit of rub there, and you can see from her towel how much salt and grime is actually coming off. And it's important that once your cleaning utensil is filthy dirty that you clean it and rinse it, otherwise you're going to be spreading the grime the rest of your tack around. Alright, that's perfect. Alright, so now we've gotten the salt off, and that actually looks really nice, but you are nowhere near done conditioning your tack. When you have this dirty of a tack, you've got to get that salt and that grime off, and now we might go to a soap product. The problem with using a soap product every day is that it kind of gets gummy or gunky on your tack. And then a lot of people will also use oils. And oils and waxes are great conditioners, but you have to think about the order in which you put it in. If I put my saddle soap on first, it seals the pores of your leather, so that when you go to put your wax or your conditioning cream on, it's not getting into your leather. You're wasting it, it's going to get slimy and greasy on your tack, and it's not going to be absorbed. So generally, what I would do is use my salt cleaner, then I would do an oiling or a waxing on cleaner tack. Now this is too dirty to put oil over. So today what we'll do is we'll soak this with some saddle soap product, then we would let it sit for a couple of hours, and then we might condition, or even the next day. Tack that Melissa takes care of for me every day is cleaned every day. So I don't need, and she doesn't need to put on conditioning cream every single day. You don't want to over lube your tack. So let's talk about some of the saddle soap products, since now we want to maybe get a little bit more of this grime off with the saddle soap. And I'm just going to show a couple. There's Murphy's Oil Soap. I use this a little bit more for laundering than I do for my tack, but some people use this on their tack. This is, you know how thrifty I am. This is my own saddle soap. And it's really simple to make. I get a plain bar of saddle soap from the tack store, the cheapest one you can buy. You slice it up into pieces. You find a nice Tupperware container that you can put your lid on. And then I melt it in the microwave with maybe 2 teaspoons of olive oil and a little bit of cream in it. Or sometimes I'll put, this is called Castile soap, and this has a little bit of coconut oil in it, so it makes like a really nice cleaner conditioner together. And the reason that I make this for myself and for the girls is that a lot of times when you have a bar of saddle soap and it's laying out in the tack room, it gets dried up and brittle and breaks and pieces get broken, and then we throw them away because they're too hard to get to. You can always put your lid straight back on this and it lasts forever. So you can choose what you want now to get a little water and saddle soap on this, and we'll do a little more soaping up of this grimy surcingle. And I'll leave this on the counter so you can press into it. So while she's doing that, there's lots of kinds of pieces of different types of saddle soap. And you're going to use what you prefer for your tack, what you like on your hands and what you like to feel of your tack. And I usually go for the inexpensive kind that I then make my own, and the girls can really utilize every little bit of it. Jane, do you have anything to add to that? Do you want to come back?
Well, I have some questions before we go any further. You can keep playing, Melissa, but you know, you talked about using the salt remover, which is really important for the longevity of your tack. But if your horse was really sweaty and there was a lot of salt, would you just use water first to remove some of the salt and then use the salt remover?
I would use water as long as you're not dunking your leather in water, and that you dry it off immediately. It is a cheaper solution than buying salt solution, but you never want to leave your tack having water on it last. So if you've got really muddy boots, really muddy bottom of your single or girth, and you take a damp watered sponge, but then dry it off and then go up with your salt.
Yeah.
So,
and then the next thing you mentioned, you were talking about conditioner and not to over condition. Are you concerned about rotting, I guess is the word I'm going to use?
definitely,
Stitching, is
and
that
that's
why?
absolutely. And I'm going to turn this over so they can see some of the stitching here as well. If you leave a lot of oils, like a neat's foot oil or a wax on your stitching, and it is just sitting there, it does eat it and it does rot it. So you might be thinking you're being kind to your tack, but you're actually letting too much moisture get in there, and it is an acidic product, so it does eat away at the stitching. So
and there's your safety factor.
And there's your safety factor. So.
And I have one more question. You were talking about saddle soap. Are you talking about glycerin bars?
Yes, plain glycerin bars.
Okay.
You know, if you go into any tack store, you'll find 4 or 5 different types of saddle soap bars, and one might be $3 and one might be $17.
I know which one you're going to buy.
I'm going to buy the $3 one. I'm going to slice it up and melt it. It only takes literally about 40 seconds in the microwave. And then I add the olive oil to make it a little bit protective, and then a little bit of cream.
What kind of cream?
Heavy cream, cooking cream.
Oh.
About a tablespoon of cream.
Really?
That's what you see in here. That's what's in here. It won't go bad. You don't have to worry about it spoiling. Soap is a preservative. So it will just stay there, and it makes it a little bit softer, a little bit creamier. And the olive oil just gives it a nice little shine to it when you're finished.
Cool. Okay, well those were all my questions so far. I'll pop in if I have any others.
Okay. All right, so now you can see this is starting to look more healthy. It's a little bit more pliable already, and you can feel that the leather is soft. It doesn't feel so brittle in my hands now. So because this was so dirty and we used the saddle soap first, I would like to leave this till tomorrow to then condition, but since we're here now, why don't we show some of the different kinds of conditioners that we can put on. But just remember, you're not going to do an oiling or a conditioning immediately after saddle soaping, because your saddle soap has sealed the pores of your leather. So we have a couple of different kinds here. We have a wax product that does also seal very well. It's a little bit waterproofing, and it does help with the malleable feel of your tack. This is a conditioning cream. This has a tiny bit of wax in it, but more of a conditioner. So again, you have to decide what's wrong with your tack. What kind of product do you need? This feels stiff to me. Don't you agree? I feel like this leather has been sitting in my trailer a little too long, and so I would use a conditioning cream on this product rather than a wax protectant. I really want to get the whole leather feeling a little bit softer and a little bit more malleable. So I always use my hands. There are plenty of products you can buy at the tack store, like a little paintbrush if you're painting on neat's foot oil. You can wear rubber gloves. I kind of like the way this smells, so I don't mind getting it on my hands. My hands feel a little softer after. Go ahead and give us some conditioning on this surcingle. And you only want maybe a dime size or bigger, and you're going to warm it up a little bit in your hand. The warmer it is, the more it's going to be absorbed into the tack. If it's a really cold day, I know cleaning your tack every day when you're up north in the winter can be miserable. The minimum treatment that your tack deserves on a daily basis is bit cleaning, salt remover, and a slight conditioning. If it's 10 degrees out and there's no hot water, take your tack home with you once a week, once every other week. Try to keep the moisture level in your tack.